Hi guys and welcome to Crazy Pepper Revenge. This channel is all about crazy true stories, stuff that happens in real life when things get a little bit messy, people dealing with drama, cheating, lies, breakups, and even revenge. Some stories are wild, some are emotional, but all of them will keep you watching. If you like real talk and real situations, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stick around. This is Crazy Pepper Revenge, where the stories get spicy.
Whoa. I never thought I'd be this happy that she cheated on me.
I fell in love with a girl from serious money, while I came from a modest working-class family where neighbors chatted over chain-link fences. Her father, Phil, was a real estate mogul. Mother, Mela, hosted charity galas and flew to Europe for shopping trips. My parents? Dad was a retired teacher. Mom worked part-time at a bakery. We had no luxury, but we had enough, something her family would never understand. I remember the day I fell in love, sunlight streaming through her parents' summer house, her laughter echoing off polished wood floors. She belonged to a world of sleek cars, galas, and wealthy acquaintances who smiled politely but looked down on outsiders like me. That day, none of it mattered. Her shining eyes, her dreams made me believe love could bridge any gap. They tolerated me for her sake, but never hid their belief that a middle-class man wasn't good enough. I remember Phil's stiff handshake when we announced our engagement. Congratulations. We're happy for you both. Then he added with a chill that lingered. We'll see how all this works out. Those words rang in my ears like a warning I should have heeded. A few days later, they sat us down at their polished mahogany table, and Phil pushed a folder across. I have something I need you to sign, he said. Inside was a prenuptial agreement meticulously protecting all her family assets. Inheritances, trust funds, business properties would remain solely hers as separate property. But here's where they completely screwed themselves. The agreement had suspiciously detailed sections about financial windfalls acquired during marriage, including lottery winnings, game show prizes being marital property subject to equitable distribution. The sections about windfalls were incredibly specific, practically zeroing in on jackpot scenarios with formal legalese. Is this absolutely necessary? I asked, glancing at my fiancée for support. Mael's voice was smooth as silk. Standard procedure in well-off families. You understand? My fiancé stood off to the side, face unreadable. I guess it's not a big deal. My parents just want to protect family assets. It won't change anything between us. I was deeply in love and desperate to keep peace, so I pressed pen to paper, forever binding myself to terms I only half understood. Phil watched with an oddly triumphant half smile. Welcome to the family. 6 months later, we had a lavish lakeside wedding that stunned my blue-collar parents. Imported flowers, 5-tier cake, live orchestra. My father wore his best suit, but looked uncomfortable under scrutiny from distant relatives, constantly asking, "So how did your son meet her?" Despite the tension, I felt unstoppable that day, like we were forging a union stronger than any social. Gulf. We moved into a condo Phil called a gift. In reality, he'd paid the down payment, but I was expected to cover monthly mortgage payments. He didn't phrase it like an ultimatum, simply said, "You'll handle the monthly bills, right, son?" So I did, quietly ignoring the sense I was paying rent on a place he still emotionally owned. They'd drop by unannounced, bringing new furniture that clashed with my style, or rearranging the living room because their decorator suggested better layouts. When I complained, my wife waved it off. They're just trying to help. Our first few years saw typical spats over money and parental interference. I started noticing everything about our life was an extension of their tastes, their control. But I told myself all couples have in-law issues. We'd get past it. 3 years into marriage, my wife calls me at work, trembling with excitement. "You won't believe this. I just won the lottery. $9 million. I bought a ticket at a gas station on a whim, and the numbers matched. I nearly dropped my phone, mind soaring with possibilities. Early retirement, travel, philanthropic projects, paying off the condo, maybe opening my own business. We'd joked before about what we'd do as millionaires. I remember trembling with giddy excitement, thinking life was about to change. But as days passed, excitement wore thin. My wife became cagey about the money, insisting we keep it quiet, especially from my family. She met with attorneys I'd never heard of, assuring me it was necessary to claim the money properly. "Shouldn't I come with you?" I asked. She shook her head. "These lawyers are used to big estates. You'd feel out of place. I'll fill you in after." That stung more than I cared to admit. Over the next weeks, I felt increasingly pushed aside. Each time I asked about managing the money or how it would be handled, she grew dismissive or simply said, "It's complicated." Then one dreary afternoon, I returned from work exhausted. The sporting goods store had been understaffed, and I'd pulled a double shift. All I wanted was to collapse on the couch. Instead, I opened the door to find my wife and her Aunt Linda rummaging through drawers, packing my belongings into boxes. "What's going on?" I said, heart starting to race. My wife straightened up, face set in a hard line. "I'm filing for divorce. Pack your things. I want you gone tonight." My heart plummeted. Aunt Linda, tall and hawkish, swept a critical eye over me. "The condo's in her name, financed with her father's money. You have no right to stay here." I couldn't process it. The woman I loved, who'd just won millions, was kicking me out with no warning. "Please, can we talk this through?" My wife pressed her lips into a thin line. "I'll have my lawyer contact you. Now leave before we call security." I felt my throat tighten. I'd been paying half the mortgage for years, but she acted like it was entirely her property. I grabbed essential items and walked out. My entire life unraveled in minutes. Shaken, I drove to my parents' house. My father opened the door, alarmed to see me with a duffel bag and haunted expression. "What happened?" When I choked out the words, my mother gasped, hands flying to her mouth. My father's eyes hardened, but he stayed pragmatic. "You need an attorney. We have to see how that prenup affects everything." I buried my face in my hands. "That's the problem. Her parents insisted on it. Now I bet it leaves me with nothing." My father paused. "We don't know that yet. Let's find out." 2 days later, I sat in Mr. Carlson's modest law office, blinds casting striped shadows across his desk. I slid the prenup across, explaining how Phil and Mael insisted on it, specifically aimed at protecting my wife's inherited assets. He flipped through pages, then let out a soft chuckle. "They shot themselves in the foot," he said. My heart fluttered with hope. "What do you mean?" He pointed to a paragraph. "They locked down inherited wealth, trust funds, and gifts from her family as separate property, but also included a clause about any windfall acquired during marriage being marital property. That covers lottery winnings, specifically, unless stated otherwise. They were so focused on preventing you from claiming her family's estate, they forgot to exclude lottery gains. You're entitled to a substantial portion of that prize." That same week, rumors began circulating that my wife was living it up with Scott, an old co-worker from her marketing firm. They'd apparently reconnected around the time she won the lottery. A mutual friend, Angela, saw them at a fancy restaurant. "Sorry to pry, but are you two separated?" They were holding hands, looked close. My stomach clenched. The floor dropped beneath me, realizing she'd likely been cheating. Phil didn't waste time with intimidation tactics. He called with threats. "You'll never see a penny of that lottery money. You're a nobody, and I'll use every means to make sure you walk away with zero. I have lawyers and know every judge in town. You'll be bankrupt from legal fees alone." He even called my boss, trying to get me fired. My wife texted, "You can't keep mooching off decent people. My father's done playing nice." I documented everything, forwarding texts to Mr. Carlson. Mael cornered me outside my parents' home, offering a pittance. "Take this and walk away. It's more than you deserve, generous for someone of your background." When I tore the paper in half, she scoffed, ungrateful, and stormed off. At a preliminary hearing, I saw my wife again, arriving with her parents and 2 attorneys. When I confronted her about Scott, she leaned in, dropping her voice to a hiss. "You have no idea what it was like being suffocated by your mediocrity. Scott understands me. He's successful and interesting. I was tired of waiting for you to catch up." My mouth went dry. "So, that's how you see me? A stepping stone?" She shrugged, lifting her chin in defiance. "I see you as someone who doesn't belong in my world." Behind the scenes, my lawyer scoured every line of the prenup, highlighting the clause that read, "All financial windfalls acquired during the period of marriage, including but not limited to monetary prizes. Lottery winnings, game show prizes shall be deemed marital property unless specifically excluded." They'd meticulously excluded inherited wealth, trusts, family gifts, but ironically, never excluded lottery winnings. It was a glaring oversight. The night before the final hearing, my wife called near midnight. Against better judgment, I answered, "Can we talk? I don't want things to get messy in court. Maybe we can settle this ourselves." She offered more money than before, but obviously less than my lawyer was pushing for, wanting an NDA to keep things quiet. When I refused, her voice brimmed with scorn. "You're an idiot. Do you have any clue what my parents can do if they pull every connection? You'll never work in this city again." I hung up, resolve steeled. Court day arrived gray and threatening rain. I wore my best charcoal suit while my wife arrived exquisitely dressed with her parents and 4 attorneys. She shot me a dismissive glance, then turned away with an arrogant hair flip. In the courtroom, her lead attorney claimed the lottery ticket was purchased independently with personal funds, money never intended to be shared. "Mr. Carlson calmly responded, "We have clear bank records showing my client's wife used a joint debit card to buy the ticket." Additionally, the prenuptial agreement explicitly includes lottery winnings as marital assets. Her father's lawyer took an aggressive approach. This man contributed almost nothing to the household, was reliant on my client's father's generous down payment, essentially freeloading off family wealth. Mr. Carlson fired back with receipts for mortgage payments, utilities, groceries. My client paid thousands over the years, contributed far more than they admit. After hours of back and forth, the judge studied the prenup. In reviewing the language, here, it is quite clear that any financial windfall arising during marriage is considered marital property subject to equitable distribution. This court sees no ambiguity. The lottery winnings are indeed a shared marital asset. She also noted I'd been evicted without due process despite financial contributions, calling it both unkind and legally relevant to fairness. She awarded me a substantial portion plus reimbursement for my share of expenses. When the ruling came down, my wife completely lost it. She launched herself at me, screaming, "You worthless scum, you ruined me!" Swinging her purse and clawing at my sleeve while shrieking, "You think you've won? You're just a parasite who fooled everyone into believing you were decent. You disgusting gold-digging liar." Security rushed forward as she struggled, tears streaking down her cheeks, spitting fury. "Let go! He's stealing my money! How can you people allow this? Do you know who my father is?" The bailiff tightened his grip. "Ma'am, calm down or we'll remove you. Court's over. We don't tolerate violence here." She was cited for contempt and attack in open court, briefly held in custody while the whole unhinged meltdown was witnessed by reporters. Word spread through legal circles, destroying her reputation. A few days later, we finalized the settlement. My father-in-law sat defeated, shoving the check across. "Take it. Hope you're happy." My ex-wife stared blankly, all arrogance gone, replaced by silent defeat. Her mother whispered frantically to their lawyer. When the last signature was placed, no one said goodbye. The family that spent years looking down on me as unworthy got completely outsmarted by their own prenup. They were so focused on protecting inherited wealth, they accidentally handed me millions when their daughter won the lottery and tried to dump me for her successful affair partner.